Are you finding money quite hard at the moment? Maybe there's a little bit of fear there, maybe a bit of scarcity, and it's impacting on your mental health as a man, or maybe your growth as well. Well, today I'm going to talk about money mindset and men's mental health and growth. And if you stay until the very end, I've got an extra point for you then as well. Now, if you want to connect with me even more outside of these episodes, I have left my social media links in the show notes below. Okay, so I'll be honest, I was going to talk about cleaning today and how that impacts mental health. Then I thought, I don't know why I was going to talk about that. And then I decided to talk about something that I've I found a lot of a big challenge in my life, and I'll share my story in the past, and also something that impacts a lot of people, all genders. But I think as a man, I've certainly found this issue of when money's challenging, like to impact all areas of my life and my mental health in particular. So I wanted to just share what I've used. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm a billionaire or a millionaire or anything like that, but I am in a pretty good financial situation in my life right now. I've had lots of choices and growth and contribution, and it's not always been that way. Now, I know we all come from different backgrounds. I was very blessed to not come from, complete poverty, whereby I had, grew up with like very, very minimal or nothing. I was very fortunate. I was born into not a rich family by any means, but a pretty, we had all the essentials in life, and I had two pretty generous parents. But I found that I've sabotaged myself so many times with my money, and I'll go into that in a little bit. I find though that it really, when money impacts you, it impacts all areas of your life, because you can't grow as much. You can grow, you can work on yourself, of course, but the things you want to use to really grow yourself, you can't invest in as much when it's a challenge. You can't contribute and help people as much as you'd like to. You can't sometimes afford things with your health, right? There's a lot of things that, like our operations, for example, whereby it's going to cost a lot of money, and if you don't have the money and you're challenged with money, it's going to impact that, and that's going to impact your mental health as well. And we live in a world where we're taught to fear a lot of things, and therefore money is one of them. It's like all these laws, these regulations. Oh my God, we're going into like a recession, all these kind of things, right? But there's also the people out there who seem to have an abundance of money, and they always seem to generate it. And I've been really, really keen on studying that. And I've been able to develop my relationship with money as a result, and be able to use it for good and manage it very, very well. I've been in things like where I've been in debt, even though when I've been in debt, like I would do a business idea, I'd invest in something and I'd make money, right? And then I'd get into debt again, right? It's crazy, but that's because my subconscious had some beliefs that weren't favoring me. And most of our behavior is driven by our unconscious. And I'm going to go into some tips on how we can manage that. But I've been in positions where I've had to have really difficult conversations with people because I've been in debt, right? And it didn't help my mental health, especially when I was bottling it into myself because I was embarrassed and I felt really bad as a man. Maybe you can relate to this. Now, the thing is, like, no amount of money is going to guarantee you complete and utter safety, right? There's no certainty in life. Yeah, of course, if you've got a lot of bills to pay and you've got minimal money or hardly any money, it's always going to be uncomfortable, right? And what I've learned, and I did a real deep diving, I'm going to share this with you. I did a deep diving journey involving like plant medicine back in November last year. And I've done a lot of retreats and deep work since. And what I found is that I realized there are rules, and that's for every area of life. But with money, I realized one of the biggest realizations I had from that journey was, and in life in general, is that there are physical and non-physical rules. What's physical and non-physical rules mean? Well, physical are the things like day to day, like saving, like investing, all these kind of things we can do in the world. But there's also non-physical worlds, the emotions we feel. And this is hard to get on board for some people, but if you feel a certain emotion and things start showing up in your life, and then you write it down and keep a record, then that will get the logical side of you more on board when you keep writing that down, because sometimes it's a bit woo-woo, like I feel good, I feel abundant, and then things will show up. It's, it's not, you actually have to do the physical rules as well. You can't just think, I am feeling great, I'm feeling amazing, I got all this money, and then like you keep spending all your money and you never invest in anything, and you never go out and add value to people, right? You got to use both rules, and that's what I've discovered. So I really want to share what I've learned about money and how it's really helped my money mindset. And I want to ask you this: does it impact you a lot? Maybe a little, maybe a lot, when you feel like you haven't got money under control? Because if you're anything like me, it didn't help me. Right. So what I'm going to do is give you some guidance, what I've learned to really help me increase my income and my relationship with money. And I think it's really important to talk about it. And money can be quite sensitive because people are like, oh, we're going to do all about money, all these kind of things. Now, I work in sales, right? And people can get a little bit funny about money because they're like, they put a lot more importance over it than it is, right? And I genuinely believe if someone wants something enough, they'll make it happen, right? Whatever it is, right? Because I've seen people make things happen when they really want it. Now in sales, I've always made sure I'm in line with what I'm selling. I would never go and sell for someone who's just after money and ripping people off. That's not who I am. But I do sell for people who have got good intentions, want to help people, and people go, oh my God, that's a lot of money. Well, when I found, and I lead by example, when I've invested in things, the more I've invested in things, the more I get out of it. The more energy I put into it, like money, time, and effort, the more I get out of it. Cheap things, free things, don't get a lot out of it, right? I listen to free things like podcasts and things like that. And, that's why I create these podcasts. I want to make it accessible to everyone. But when I've wanted true transformation, it's when I put the most amount of investment into something. Okay. And it's not always guaranteed, but I'll tell you what is guaranteed. There's no guarantees in life, but this is almost a guarantee, is that if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get what you've always gotten, right? As the saying goes, right? Okay. So, bit of a tangent then, but there's an important message, right? So the physical rules I've learned for really developing my relationship with money. Make a plan, right? Most of us a lot of people I talk to, and I've been there as well, are like, right, okay, I've got roughly this amount of money, and yeah, I'm going to spend it a bit here and there. That's not a plan. That's just like leaving it to chance, right? You can wish for all the things you want in the world and do the visualizations, but if you've got like no plan, and of course with plan, it's about flexibility because you never know what's going to come into your life, right? But if you haven't got direction, how do you know where you're going, right? So it's all about, I'm actually going to give 2 physical rules and 2 non-physical rules. But the first one is your plan and budget, right? I have a spreadsheet. I've also got like experience in working in like cost side of like project management and things like that as well. But I've always been a big fan of budgeting and like, okay, I've got this amount this month, I'm spending this here, and then I'm constantly updating my spreadsheet when I spend something. It only takes me like 10 seconds, right? I spent this amount of money, right? Update the spreadsheet. So therefore I can see the numbers. Now you could be like, oh, I don't like numbers, or like this stuff. Well, do you like struggling with money more? Well, it's completely up to you, right? So have a plan on a budget, right? And also, like, I have accountants and things like that who help me with these kind of things. But yeah, have a plan and have a budget. Like, know how much you're spending. And when you see it visually, sometimes it's like, wow, that's crazy, right? I'll be like, okay, I'm spending that amount on this. I used to be terrible at this. I used to be like, oh my God, I spent like 200 quid on that night out. And that wasn't a one-off, that was quite regular. And then when I was able to see that, I was able to put systems in place, which comes on to my next point actually, in order to manage that. So have a plan and a budget. right? Don't just be like, oh, I'm going to visualize all this money coming to me. No, if you can't manage your money now, you're not going to get more of it. A really good analogy of this that I heard from a couple of people, I think it was Harv Eker actually in particular said this one. He's like a multi-millionaire and he talks about money, but he said, like, if you've got a kid, I think it was one of his traders, but if you've got a kid who's like got one scoop of ice cream, this kid then drops that scoop of ice cream on the floor because he can't handle it. He then goes to his parents, or she goes to his parents, her parents, goes, right, I want 3 scoops. It's like, is the parent going to give him 3 scoops? No, because they can't handle 1 scoop. So if you can't handle your current money, why would you feel like you can receive, and this is going a bit spiritual and stuff, receive more money if you can't handle the current amount of money you've got? It's crazy, right? Okay, and that's like the ice cream analogy. Like, the kid can't handle 1 scoop, why would they handle 2 or 3 scoops? Right? Okay, so learn to manage that with a plan or budget. And then the second physical rule, have systems in place. Now, I talked about the unconscious. Now, the unconscious is driving us to behaviors. Now, how you reprogram the subconscious is a bit more into the non-physical rules I'm going to go into. But whilst the subconscious can be very, very strong, and willpower, like, I'm not going to spend this money, I'm not going to spend this money, what's going to happen? Eventually, you're going to cave in and probably spend the money that you didn't want to blow, right? Put systems in place. There's a great book called Willpower Doesn't Work. And what you can do here is you could get a Monzo card like I got, whereby you have a certain limit on the amount of money, and then you put your other cards away. You don't have any phone apps on your, or you don't have any apps in particular on your phone. So therefore, if you go out and you're like, right, I put £50 on this evening, or maybe a bit more, £50 on this evening on my Monzo card, I can only spend that amount of money. You can't actually physically spend more money if you put that limit on it. It's a bit like having bad food in your home. You're like, I'm not going to eat the bad food. I'm not going to eat the bad food. Eventually, you're going to cave in, right? The subconscious is going to take over until you've kind of reprogrammed it and you've gone through these habits, right? So if you take the bad food out of your flat, you can't have it. Same as with cards, right? Put a limit on your card, right? Maybe remove your credit cards. Put systems in place that are going to stop you consciously consciously put systems in place that are going to stop you subconsciously, like overspending and messing maybe your money up. Okay, the non-physical rules, right? Beliefs. Really look at your beliefs around money, like every single week minimum, ideally every other day, every day if you can, right? Just looking, actually, I'm spending too much money, so therefore, what is the belief behind this? And I can go more in depth with you if you want on this and how we can look into our beliefs. But for now, just start, and getting a good coach can really, really help you. That's something I'm not currently offering, but really look at what are your beliefs? What are your beliefs behind these money behaviors, right? Because if you're spending all your money, there's a chance that you probably don't believe you're worthy of it. Even if you don't consciously want to acknowledge that, deep down inside of you, there's a belief. Now, how do you change that? There's all sorts of ways. You can actually start looking at why that's false, why you are worthy of it, and actually start embedding evidence and really feeling. And it's about repetition and emotion for changing your belief. And then the next one is gratitude, being grateful for what you have already. I found this, like, even in the last week, there's a phrase I say for acknowledging and thanking money, whether I've received it or I'm spending something. And what I found was actually I got a significant more amount of money coming to me. And that's because I've got gratitude for what I've got already, right? If you're like, oh, I don't like this, what's the chance that you're going to receive more? Probably less likely. So being grateful every single day, every morning or every evening, or both, acknowledging and being grateful for the money you have. Okay, got an extra point for you. Just before that, I want to mention again that if you want to connect with me more and check out my content, then you can connect with me on social media, linked in the show notes below. Okay, what is my final point? Well, it's a very basic one, but listen and model someone who's very good with money. All right. Listen to someone on the podcast. I've just given like one episode, obviously, on money mindset. So I'm not like a money expert or someone who's like a multimillionaire. But if you want to be that, listen to someone who is really, really good with money and keep listening to them, keep reading their work, because the more you study someone, the more you're going to take on their beliefs and behaviors. So therefore, that would be my point. And try and hang out with people. It can be quite difficult in person or on Zoom or whatever, because if you want to go to these like highly expensive events, obviously you've got to have that kind of money. But there's always a way. Like I say, be resourceful. But like for now, just stick to the basics. Listen to podcasts, listen to free videos on YouTube, or read books. Study someone who's really good with money, because you're going to take on their beliefs and their attitudes towards money. So that's what I got for you today. I wanted to really talk about some money guidance that I've learned. Again, I'm not a financial expert, like I'm not a mental health expert. I'm just sharing my own personal stories and sharing some points that have worked for me with you, as always. So I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people in your life by working on yourself as a man. And remember to lead with your heart, not with fear.